It's always been embedded into me, like, it always has to be Muslim and Muslim.
Oh, you just marry blindly and all the best lah. If you get good ones, good for you.
Sometimes in the process of enforcing that someone does it the halal way, they force people into doing things. Islam does not teach that.
People come up to me and be like, this relationship is haram.
Someone said that. The streets are a dangerous place.
What would be the guiding principle when you get on these apps?
Be a good human being, ah.
True.
Is my relationship halal or haram?
Hello and welcome to Pantang, where we dive into topics people are usually scared to talk about, but here at Pantang, we are not. I'm Fauzi.
And I'm Azura. Today's a spicy one. We're going to be talking about, is the act of dating haram, or is it just the way we've defined it?
We are discussing modern love, halal, haram, arranged marriages, and everything in between.
Wow!
Yeah, a lot of things.
Today we have Liyana as well as Ustazah Nur Hidayah to shine some light on their experiences.
Here at Pantang, we are letting the cards bring us further into the topic of discussion. So let's start with card level 1. Are we ready?
Okay.
Let's go.
On dating, what does the halal path to knowing a potential partner look like today? So Liyana, you're in a relationship. Can you walk us through your relationship first?
I've been with my partner for 6 years now. He's not Muslim at all. We met online, and then after that we met up. The first 2 years of the relationship, I wasn't into my religion.
Okay.
It was only the 3rd year, 4th years onwards, then that's where I started to have the light or the pathway into the religion.
Wow, I have so many questions. But before that, we want to ask Ustazah, how do we define, halal dating, haram dating?
The concept of halal and haram, we usually view it from like the point of what I can do, what I cannot do. I think based on like Liyana's sharing earlier as well, I think it's really important to like take a step back and really understand that everything happens by the will of God. Because I think usually when we love people, when we are like in that relationship and dating phase, it's always about, oh, I like this person liked me. But the one who actually gave us that love is God. And we cannot truly know the love of God without actually experiencing between human beings.
My question would be for Liyana. In this juncture, there was one time you started to decide to wear the hijab, and then you were re-evaluating the relationship. Does religion take precedence?
Yes. I went into research on, of course, the first thing I searched was, is my relationship halal or haram? I think when I had conversation with my friends, of course with friends, they don't really tell you straight up, hey, it's haram, you know. They will just be like, oh, maybe you should talk to an ustazah on things like that. So that's where I reached out to an ustazah, and then they told me like, oh, actually your relationship is indicating as haram. When we fell in love, right, we didn't have that, oh, you're Muslim, I'm not. Is it okay? We didn't have that conversation at first.
Okay.
It was more like, okay, I like you, you like me, let's date, that kind of thing. There wasn't like a topic like, oh, what is your religion? What's my religion? Should we align it in the future? There wasn't that topic. But of course, when I started wearing hijab, that conversation had to start. And it was a very tough conversation between the two of us, because he doesn't have a religion, so he doesn't believe in anything. So for me to make him believe there is God is a bit difficult for me.
Ustazah, you mentioned earlier that, halal, haram are actions, right? So would you say then that, Liyana should not be saying like, oh, the relationship is haram? Because what will make it haram? It's actions. It's not the relationship per se, no?
Definitely. It always goes back to two things, our intentions and our actions in everything that we do, because that continues to like govern the way in which that we live our lives. And it's very interesting because, the first thought that you had was, oh, is my relationship halal or is my relationship haram? Probably from the surface, it's like, okay, this person is a believer, this person is not a believer, and then, the equation does not match. But, two people can be believing people, but they might not be healthy for each other.
Yeah.
So it's always about, what does this relationship do for me? How does it make me a better person? Or is it causing me more pain into my life than it should? It's not just about, oh, I'm dating this person, I'm in a relationship with this person, it's halal or it's haram. But it's really, how do I actually navigate through this process so that each step that I take, it helps me to become a better person usually.
Just now, Liyana, you mentioned that
Her first thought was that the
like
relationship was haram.
Yeah, but what part of it do you think is haram?
I think it's always been embedded into me, like, it has to be Muslim and Muslim only. It doesn't come across to me that, oh, a Muslim can be together with a non-Muslim, you can get to know each other and things like that. And if the person were to convert and things like that, it always has to be Muslim and Muslim. So that's why I think, to me, automatically when I did some research, it's like, I'm dating someone that doesn't have a religion, doesn't see the way that I see in the beginning, of course.
Yeah.
And then it's like, is it haram to be even talking to him?
When you started, the relationship, you said that, you were not as in tune with your faith as you are now. And then eventually, you understand the religion better. So what would you say the key differences in your relationship is before and after?
Before, it felt everything like normal. Like, it feels like I'm in a movie, like, oh my God, I'm in a relationship and things like that. The religion wasn't a question. When I started finding my own journey, started wearing hijab, there was a lot of differences. I would go on a date with him and then I would be like, hey, I need to pray, like give me time to pray and things like that. Then he start to see the changes. To my surprise, people do actually come up to me. Like, there was once we went out and then we went to Universal Studio. People come up to me and be like, oh, do you know that this relationship is haram?
Someone said that, like on the streets.
We were just like going out and then they'll be like, oh, sorry. Like in Malay, they ask like, oh, is he a Muslim? And I'm like, I'm sorry, no, but can I know who are you and why you're asking me such personal questions? And he was like, oh, I just want to say that this is a haram relationship. And then I'm like, thank you. And then I think me and my partner just walked away.
Makcik, you tegur people.
So it felt very like attacked. Like, I know that it is, but I don't need a public to tell me that this is wrong. Like, I know internally this is wrong.
Because this is your journey. This is your journey.
Like,
right? Yeah.
Do that?
So, Ustazah, my question is, Liyana has already held hands with his boyfriend, lovey-dovey and everything. We know in the Islamic context, it's haram. And in the current state of modern world, you want to hold your boyfriend's hand, right? My question is, what would be the halal way of dating? And eventually, if they do get together, is civil marriage an option?
So, just to be honest, not the easiest questions that you have asked me.
That's why it's called Pantang question.
The very first part of your question is like on the halal way, right, of dating. And I think what Islam teaches us, importantly, would be, earlier you mentioned about intentions. That's really important. Do I go into a relationship because I want to get to know this person so that I will marry this person eventually? Or is this person, I'm just trying to do some form of exploration of my interests so that eventually I will find the one, right?
Yeah.
Another aspect, as we mentioned, what makes it halal or haram is actually the boundaries as well. How much of the boundaries are we observing and taking care of? Because one of the encouragements, in our faith is that when we go into like dating or when we like somebody, it's really important not to prolong that relationship. It feels like, how long are we supposed to date and, eventually go into something much more serious, for example. Another aspect could also look like exploring things in which that are sacred to a marriage before the marriage actually happens. So a couple of things to observe would be intentions, of course, actions, the boundaries in which that we can, take care of. To answer the question, yes, civil marriage is actually an option in Singapore. So if you are marrying a believer and you're a believer, right, you are both Muslims, then you will go to ROMM. If not, then you'll be going to ROM lah.
Is that not haram, Ustazah?
Unfortunately, it is haram. But because, we are living in a very, multicultural, multi-religious Singapore, so that is actually one of the options as well.
So when we talk about, not prolonging dating, for example, some people take it out of context. I think especially now in the modern dating world, it is an importance for someone that, you want the best shot for yourself, right? You want to find the best person for yourself, the best connection, and that takes time. So in that way, how do we balance that? Finding the best person for ourselves, but at the same time also still try and be as halal.
So the encouragement is to not take too long, right? Or prolonging the relationship. But interestingly, in the religion, there is no specific like time frame. Like, you have got to get to know this person in like 2 years and then you must quickly marry the person. But I think what's really important is to understand that yes, each and every one of us, we have our hidden sides. And Islam does not say, you just marry blindly and all the best lah. If you get good ones, good for you. If you get bad ones, then that's too bad for you, right? But Islam does acknowledge that we can try to learn about the person through through the people around them. So we can get to know the person through their family members, through their friends, through the community in which that they are constantly in. There are also moments or situations where we can observe, their consistency in different settings. What I always love to offer people is that, when you are in love, when you really like that person, you always want to say yes all the time, but try to say no sometimes. Some people are not so comfortable with rejections. And in those instances, you can learn a little bit more about the person, right?
That's
Maybe
interesting.
usually you show up early. Maybe try to show up 3 hours late.
That's Melayu, Ustazah. It's normal. Right.
Then see how, the person reacts or responds to you in those different circumstances, because there will always be creative ways to learn about that person. What Islam teaches us is also that, dependence on God as well. Because, I can do my due diligence. I can hire a paparazzi or a spy to document what they do their entire day. But the reality about marriage is that when you step into it, there will be certain aspects of the person that the world does not know that you will learn. There will also be aspects of you that you yourself don't know. But actually, this journey of relationships and going towards marriage is actually a relationship, building your trust in God as well.
Okay, Liyana, I want to ask you, right? Let's just loosely term it as, before she put on the hijab and after she put on the hijab. This is a journey you're on, but he may not be part of. So to him, certain things are normal. But now you might say no. Can you tell us a bit about, these things that have happened?
Last time when we go out, right, it seems normal. Like everyone will say, oh, it's a normal boyfriend and girlfriend. But now it's everyone will look at us so differently. And then he will sometimes ask me oh, are we doing correctly? Are we doing the right thing?
So he tries to accommodate to you as well.
After I wear my hijab, right, I told him can you please read up on Islam? And then he will be like, is this okay? Do we need your brother to come in and talk to us, that kind of thing.
To be honest, what you all are doing right now, exploring the religion together, it sounds pretty healthy to me.
Yeah, especially in the fasting month. There was one time where he fasted the whole month with me.
Wow!
But sometimes I feel I'm the bad one. I'll be like, I cannot take it anymore. But then he continued fasting throughout the whole day.
That's so cute.
Ustazah, isn't that really nice? Because it never encouraged or said that you should force someone into the religion.
It is really beautiful. I'm just in awe of what you're sharing, and to some extent you feel that pressure of wanting to welcome him into the religion. So I think to some extent, we need to understand that the one who gives guidance is God. We do what we can to the best of our capacity, but it's not on you to make him a Muslim.
And just now she mentioned as well that he asked oh, does your brother need to be here? So we've heard about when you date the halal way,
Okay.
it can't just be the two of you. There needs to be a third person. Can you explain this to us?
One of the precautionary steps, is to always have somebody in the loop. So there are certain circumstances where we can literally get a third party to be present with us. For example, I go to a cafe because I want to meet with this person. I want to learn more about him, for example. So then there's that third party who follows me along. So it could be my closest friend, my sister, family member, basically somebody who I trust. It's just to know that someone knows that this is happening, so that in case anything happens, I have someone to for example, back me up or to actually witness whatever that is happening.
Is this encouraged or is it wajib?
It is encouraged.
Okay.
Very much encouraged.
So it's not compulsory.
So there are certain times where you cannot get that person to be with you, right? So getting them informed of your circumstances is also okay as well.
It's almost like the accountability officer.
True. I had a friend who went through that entire process as well.
Okay.
So they were like, oh, okay, meet this person, and then they start talking, right?
Okay.
And then the third person was like, actually, it's getting awkward. I'm going to go to NTUC and get some groceries.
Right.
Y'all just take care of yourselves.
Right.
But it's nice because it was also in a public setting, not somewhere secluded or just in a room between two people.
Liyana, who would be your third person then in this case?
I have two in mind.
Okay.
When she was talking, I was like, who would be my best person? My brother, who is older than me, of course. Yeah, when we go on dates, right, me and my boyfriend, I will always video call him and be like, Abang, this is him here, we are just going USS, that kind of
Right.
thing.
That's cute.
Yeah, we're not doing anything wrong, that kind of thing. And then he'll be like, okay, jaga-jaga baik, and then hang up. And then the other one will be my best friend, of course.
Okay.
You who's
Producer.
that person?
Huh?
Okay, moving on to
Never
the
mind.
next one.
Okay, yeah.
Now, Cut 2 says, can an arranged marriage truly reflect personal compatibility, and what ensures that it is halal? I know of a person who was in a relationship and then basically got forced by family into an arranged marriage. And because of, feel party, even though you already have someone, this person went ahead with the marriage. And I think it's very hard on the person.
Wow.
Sometimes in the process of ensuring or enforcing that someone does it the halal way, they force people into doing things. And Islam does not teach that.
Yeah, so that is true. Islam does not force us into anything, like let alone faith, right? Religion in itself. So I think the reason why we are really uncomfortable with the thought of arranged marriages is because of the term arranged.
Yeah.
Like we don't like when things are arranged for us, right?
Yes.
Like I like to arrange in a certain way. Like
Yeah.
you don't tell me how to arrange.
Yeah.
But actually arranged marriages, it needs to be viewed from a point of a guided journey instead of something that is forced. The moment it is forced, typically it won't turn out, in a manner that is pleasing.
Yeah.
Because in Islam, what is really important is also consent. The one marrying needs to also be agreeable with the arrangement as well. If I'm listening to my parents to marry this person that they like, right? I also have the right to ask, why do you like this person?
Right.
Why do you think this person is fit for me? Because at the end of the day, we do not just want to force two people to live under the same roof.
It sounds very hierarchy to me. What if it's flipped to the other side? Like, we are the one who arranged this, and then we go to our parents, hey, this is somebody whom I want to be with. Can we explore this?
That one is called arranged marriage, man.
I don't know.
That
I
one
want
is
to
called,
arrange
this is
for
my
myself.
choice, you okay or not?
I arrange first.
Correct. Well, I want to arrange for myself. What?
That's not dating, mate!
Oh, different. So, it's still hierarchy.
Under what circumstances, right, could an arranged marriage become impermissible? Like, even if the intention was good, what could make it haram eventually?
Of course, earlier we mentioned about the need for consent. So if there's no consent, then that is not permissible as well. If it is done out of forcing your ideals upon your children, for example, like last time I cannot marry a Tan Sri, so now I want you to marry a Tan Sri, that kind of thing.
Send my way, I'm okay.
So another one is probably forcing them to go into something that is not healthy for their well-being. For example, you know that this person is abusive, but just because, again, the person is a Tan Sri, right? So you want all the cash, right? But you are allowing more harm to actually happen in that particular marriage.
What if it's an arranged marriage for the parents' own benefit? Like, for example, business. Because that's how marriage started, right?
Is there such a thing?
Have lah.
Oh my God, really?
There is, or it could be circumstances where probably parents are friends with one another, and 10 years ago they promised, okay, we're going to marry our children together, that kind of thing. So it's important to understand that what you're setting up for your children is actually a journey on its own, and it should not be something transactional or just for the benefit of the worldly sense because it will spill over into your hereafter.
When we talk about arranged marriages, right? Do you think it's cultural or do you think it's religious?
I think in today's time, the way we practice arranged marriages is more cultural. But when we take a look at, our prophetic tradition, there have been practices of, I know this person and I think this person suits you, and why not you get to know each other.
Right.
Even in today's time, right, you might find yourself in those settings as well. Like, Liyana, I think, right, they look good together. I think we should, get them to get married to one another. So don't you think that is already like a setup that you are already creating for another person? So I wouldn't say it's purely cultural or purely religious, but it's really how you approach it.
I matchmade people once and then it blew out in my face and never again. Really?
No, I helped a successful marriage group. One. Yeah, I'm so proud of them. Yes.
Wow!
Yeah, so that means that one also is an arranged marriage actually. Ustazah, you've mentioned that in the times of prophets, his companions practiced arranged marriages. Is there a theory or a story from the Quran that we can reference with this?
This reminds me of one of the prophetic narrations. So where it is actually the advice of the prophet. So the Prophet was, reminding the people to, marry people based on like 4 things. You look to a person's beauty, you look at the person's, wealth or financial status, you look to the person's lineage, and you also look to the person's religion and the person's religious practices. So during the time of the Prophet, there were certain companions who were keen on getting married, and then the Prophet said, okay, these are like the 4 criteria, right? But of course, the first one, the most important, is always the practice of their faith. There are actually certain instances where the Prophet would say, okay, this person is available for marriage. Who want to marry this person? He would then ask, the other companions of their interest to marry that particular individual. Right. So there's no like specific script or text that says, oh, Allah said it's halal to do arranged marriages, but we find those values in it, and we, apply it in our own context.
Which brings us to our third card. So in the digital world of DMs and dating apps, right, what does a halal approach to meeting someone actually look like?
I've heard reviews about the apps as well. Sometimes it's like a pleasant experience, sometimes not so pleasant experience.
Yeah.
I think similarly to how you approach.
The people.
Sorry? So again, like platforms, apps, all of these things are actually tools for us to use. And the outcome of a certain tool will always be dependent on the people, the user themselves, right? Am I using it for good? Am I using it for like entertainment? If you are considering using like the digital space, digital platforms or apps as well, again, remind yourself it is a tool to get to know somebody or to find someone. And also be careful because people who present themselves but is actually not who they are.
Correct. The streets are a dangerous place.
Scammers and all that.
Liyana, you mentioned earlier that you met your boyfriend online.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Was it an app?
It was an app called Discord. I don't know if you guys know about it.
Like gaming.
Yeah, so it was a channel that allows you to meet and talk to people that want to be friends or interested to be in a relationship with.
Your idea.
No.
After this, you download Discord. Would you say it's fate that you meet him then?
Maybe, yeah. Because in a way, it was during COVID when it happened where everyone is locked out. So online was the only way. And then at that time, Among Us was popular, the game. And then we started like Discord playing with a bunch of other friends. That's how we knew like each other characteristic when gaming.
Wow, it's a new age of dating entirely.
Which leads me to Ustazah, right? I have a question for you, which is, for young Muslims navigating this space, what guiding principles should they hold on to in exploring relationships?
So it's really down to the intentions in which that we set. That is really important. Our actions as well. Because a person can say, oh, I'm actually approaching this like from a good intention, right? I'm actually sliding into the DMs because it's a good intention. But it's important to also ask, is my, behavior reflecting that good intention? But it's not to say that, oh, we cannot slide into the DMs, we cannot get to know people. By all means, of course, that's how we connect in today's, time and context, right? Another thing to offer is that can we also be intentional and objective as well in our approach, right? Like, slide into the DMs and say, hi, I'm Hidayah or I'm so-and-so and, I'm currently, trying to get to know people, to find somebody that I would like to marry eventually. Are you open to it? Just be upfront with it. And I think it also saves your time as well.
But what would be the guiding principle, like every time when you get on these apps or like dating in the modern world?
Be a good human being,
True.
The basic level is humanity,
Yeah.
Because you're like connecting with another human, right?
Yeah.
Conversing.
I have a story to share with you, Ustazah.
Okay.
This is from a friend, who used a dating app, who eventually met this girl and went on a date. So they went for a meal, and then eventually he drove her home. And when they were there, he was going to send her to the lift lobby, and that's it. And then she said, do you want to come up? And he said, actually, no. She wears the hijab, by the way. And then she said, oh, but my parents are not home. Do you want to come out? And he said, no, I'm just dropping you off and making sure that you're safe. And then he said, okay, bye-bye. And he left. And then he never heard from her again. Just so happened that he had people who knew this girl. Eventually, he heard that she never called him again because what she said to to everyone was, oh, he doesn't want to touch me. That's so weird.
What?
Right? I was like, young people now like that?
Like sometimes in this digital space, we tend to like just judge people by how they look, how they dress,
Yeah.
but it's not always the case because, a person can be wearing the most, modest outfit, but their challenge is to actually practice their faith in their actions. Being strong and true to your values is also really important because do I, for example, just choose this person because she wears a hijab, or is it, the values that I find in a person? It's a scary world out there. So be careful lah. Yeah.
Liyana, if you don't mind me asking, so at this point in your relationship, where do you think you're at?
Truth to be told, I'm turning 30 this year. So I do think about the future ahead. I want to have kids, I want to get married. So I did told him like I want to get married between a certain age and things like that. So he is actually open to convert. We had this conversation. So he said he needs a bit of time to look into it and things like that. Right now, I think I'm in a position of waiting for him to tell me what's his plan.
It's a very personal question, but was there a timeline set?
To be very honest, I told him let's get everything settled by the end of this year. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. Really appreciate it. If the goal in a relationship in Islam is marriage, how should that intention shape every step before, the end goal?
Earlier, we mentioned about timeliness, how that is important because, we are constantly being placed in that position of uncertainty. We are uncertain about where this is going. We are uncertain how long we will be in this phase of our relationship, which is why do we want to observe it from the Islamic point of view? Because it does give us that sense of clarity. It gives us that sense of, these are the things that needs to be done and, these are the steps in which that I want to take next.
I think intention is definitely the first step, like what Ustazah said. Of course, action follows by it. Don't let feelings lead everything. Of course, do it with clarity and of course, do it in a proper manner. That's what I always believe in.
So, these conversations aren't about drawing lines, right, between what's right, what's wrong overnight, because I think everybody's on their own journey, but about understanding wisdom behind them as well. Why we do certain things.
Faith and relationship don't always come with easy answers, but they, with honest reflections, I think that is a way about it.
Yeah, and if this episode gave you something to think about, we hope it has opened up space, for a healthier conversation as well.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Liyana and Ustazah. Thank you.
And we thank you guys for joining us at Pantang. See you on the next episode.